missed the album 20, you missed the motherfucking album 22. I just told you, man.
And Key Glock wasn't the only person that said something. Somebody who go by the name of Kenny Money also responded to
the streets are buzzing heavy about federal investigations tied to rumors that money was put on Govon's head. And right now, fingers are being pointed straight at none other than Mr. Glock himself. Vaughn somehow beat a life sentence after being labeled as the face behind Memphis's biggest case. He even took a 10-year plea deal that later got pulled back by Dolph's family, yet still walked away not guilty. But Paper Route Empire clearly isn't letting that slide. The man many called the mastermind behind the November 17, 2021 hit has now stepped back into freedom, and now Key Glock and the entire Peace Circle look ready to handle things their own way. Kenny Money is out here calling him a federal informant. Paper Route Woo is saying he should go ahead and pick out his casket, while talk around the city suggests the feds might be watching every move closely. No cap, the tension is real and rising fast. This situation is heating up because when what happens in court doesn't match what people believe in the streets, emotions start running wild and things can spiral quick. Hernandez Govon was accused of setting up young Dolph's death for just $20,000, a number that had people side-eyeing it from the jump. But after a week-long trial, a Memphis jury completely rejected the prosecution's version. This verdict didn't just clear one man, it also raised serious questions about how the case was built, especially with claims it relied heavily on statements from Cornelius Smith, who many believe was trying to avoid spending his life behind bars.
See, you missed the album 20, you missed the motherfucking album 22. I just told you, man. I told you. I just said in the interview. They gonna see I told you. I just told you, bro. Why don't ask me none of this shit, man? Listen, bro. Nah, man, federal informants, man. Niggas do what they want to do, man. Fuck gonna do what they want to do, bro. What you expect, man? They gonna put a nigga, what you want that? What you think gonna happen? They gonna put him back on the street so they can go back to work, man. How you think they survive, man?
Let me break down how Key Glock is now allegedly under investigation after making some questionable moves. Let's rewind back to the early 2000s when Hernandez Govon was just another hustler out of Orange Mound trying to elevate his situation. Back then, this man, now 45 years old, had been in and out of jail for nearly 26 straight years. Charges like serious assault, drug possession, and firearm-related cases stacked up over time, painting a complicated history. But Orange Mound isn't just any neighborhood. This is the home of 8-Ball and MJG, known as one of the toughest areas in Memphis. Govon had ties to Big Juke, Yo Gotti's brother, through some layered family connections. His mother was involved with someone Govon was very close to, which built a strong bond between them. They gambled together, handled business, and kept things respectful. Juke wasn't exactly a close friend, more like an associate, but there was still mutual respect in the mix. But here's where things take a turn. Govon also knew young Dolph personally from years before any rap tension ever started. That part matters because the prosecution tried to paint this like a calculated setup. But these men actually had a history of working together back when Dolph was juggling street life and his rising music career. Him and Govon were involved in marijuana deals, and everything between them stayed smooth and respectful. There was no tension at that time, just business being handled like normal. Now, to really understand this situation, you have to note that by 2021, Govon was trying to step away from street life and move into the music industry. He had already seen his brother pass on signing Moneybagg Yo years earlier, and that decision still weighed heavy on him. He wasn't trying to miss another opportunity like that again. Govon had plans to sign an artist named Straight Drop, real name Justin Johnson, to CMG through his connection with Big Juke. This part is important because Straight Drop would later be accused as one of the people involved in what happened to young Dolph. But at that time, Govon believed he was making a real business move, something that could change his life, provide for his kids, and finally help him leave the streets behind. He saw it as a chance to build something legit and secure his future. Then, everything started shifting. In the months leading up to Dolph's death, Govon arranged for Big Juke to come to his place in Orange Mound to check out Straight Drop's music. Getting Big Juke to pull up wasn't easy at all. This was someone with real status and a reputation to protect. They held a full business meeting at Govon's house, with Big Juke breaking down promotion strategies, explaining how to build buzz, and showing what it would take for Justin to get the recognition needed to land a real deal. Everything was moving smooth, and this was shaping up to be the kind of opportunity that could really change Govon's life. But then, things took a sudden turn. In the middle of that meeting, there's a knock at the door. It's Cornelius Smith, someone Govon knew through his late godbrother Bobby Carter, and a person known for struggling with substance issues. Govon initially tries to brush him off, thinking Cornelius is just there for the usual reason. But when Govon steps outside, Cornelius starts talking in a way that immediately raises eyebrows. He says they aren't trying to do anything about Dolph trying to take out Gotti. That statement completely caught Govon off guard. He had heard rumors about situations involving Dolph before, but nothing suggesting Dolph was targeting Gotti. To him, that sounded completely backwards and didn't add up at all. Now, according to the prosecution, this exact moment is when everything allegedly shifted. They claimed this conversation sparked a plan involving Govon, Big Juke, Straight Drop, and Cornelius Smith, centered around a $100,000 deal with Govon supposedly getting $20,000 for setting it up. But this is also where their version of events starts raising serious questions. Govon wasn't trying to get involved in anything like that night. He told Cornelius it wasn't his concern and walked straight back inside to focus on the music meeting. He wasn't about to drag Juke into random street talk that could mess up a real opportunity. Govon made it clear that wasn't his business and went right back to locking in the deal like planned. According to Govon's lawyer, Manny Aurora, there were no messages, no records, and nothing showing any kind of planning for violence between anyone involved. No payments, no calls, no proof at all. Just statements from someone facing life behind bars and trying to make a deal. That's a major point that keeps coming up. Now fast forward to November 15, 2021. Young Dolph returns to Memphis for his annual turkey drive, something he made a tradition every year to give back to his community. Despite ongoing tension with CMG, Dolph always showed up for his city. This wasn't about music, this was personal, about helping families during Thanksgiving. But this is where things start to intensify. According to the prosecution's timeline, there were communications involving Govon, Straight Drop, Cornelius, and Big Juke leading up to November 17th. Still, Govon stood firm, saying any contact he had with Justin was strictly about music and helping him land a deal. Then everything reaches a breaking point. On November 17, 2021, young Dolph visits his favorite cookie shop, Makeda's Homemade Butter Cookies. Around 12:25 p.m., a white Mercedes-Benz pulls up, and two individuals step out, identified as Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith, and open fire. Dolph was hit multiple times and tragically lost his life right there in the parking lot. But what happened next made the situation look sloppy and poorly thought out. The individuals involved reportedly drove the vehicle linked to the incident right back to Orange Mound and left it parked in a yard across from Govon. That's when people really started questioning everything, because this didn't look like some calculated operation at all. It looked more like panic and poor decisions by inexperienced individuals rather than something carefully planned. By January 5, 2022, Justin Johnson and Cornelius Smith were both named as suspects, with $15,000 rewards offered for information. But prosecutors were aiming higher. They were focused on who they believed was behind it all, the alleged mastermind. Then, in November 2022, while Govon was dealing with deep personal loss, the situation took another serious turn. He had just lost his 24-year-old daughter, Lotto Cash Desto, in a tragic incident in Houston only 2 months earlier. Around the same time, his brother passed away in a car accident, and his grandmother also died. Within just a few months, Govon was hit with overwhelming loss, and then legal trouble followed right after. A Shelby County grand jury indicted him on charges including a first-degree count, attempted first-degree, and conspiracy. The timing couldn't have been more intense. According to the state's claims, Govon was the one directing everything behind the scenes. They alleged he arranged it all and would receive $20,000, while those directly involved would split $100,000. Their case leaned heavily on cell phone records showing communication between the defendants, along with testimony from Cornelius Smith. But this is exactly where things started falling apart for the prosecution. Their main witness was the same Cornelius Smith, the same person who had shown up at Govon's door months earlier, making questionable claims. Now he was the key voice in a case this serious. That raised a lot of concerns right away. Smith was facing life behind bars himself, which had people questioning how reliable his statements really were. The pressure he was under became a major talking point as the case moved forward. At first, Govon was working with a lawyer he had known for years, someone he trusted. But as things progressed, he started feeling like something wasn't right with how the case was being handled. His family didn't agree with switching attorneys at first because of that long-standing relationship, but Govon stayed firm that he needed a new approach. That's when Manny Aurora stepped in, a well-known defense attorney out of Atlanta who has worked with high-profile clients like Lil Durk, Gucci Mane, Maya, and Pac-Man Jones. Once Manny started reviewing the case, he quickly spotted issues in the prosecution's claims that didn't add up. The judge eventually granted Govon bond, placing him under house arrest with GPS monitoring after he had already served 10 months in custody. That alone shifted momentum in a big way. During that time, Aurora focused on building a defense aimed at challenging the entire case and exposing weak points in the narrative. But the situation kept evolving. After Aurora filed 16 motions against the state and won 11 of them, the pressure started shifting fast. What was once a 20-year offer dropped to 15 and eventually to 10 years. Govon was ready to accept that 10-year deal instead of risking life behind bars. With time already served, he believed he could be home in about 3 to 4 years with his kids. One of the biggest reasons pushing him toward that decision was his 15-year-old autistic son, who was mostly nonverbal. His son just wanted his father home and feared losing him for good, which made everything even more emotional. The paperwork was signed, the deal was approved, and Govon mentally prepared himself to serve the remaining time. It seemed like everything was finally settled. But then things took a dramatic turn. Young Dolph's family stepped in, and their response changed everything. After the deal was signed, the prosecution brought it to Dolph's family for input. The family rejected it, saying 10 years wasn't enough for someone they believed was responsible. That decision flipped the case overnight. According to Aurora, the elected DA, who came from more of an academic background, decided to pull the deal back after hearing the family's stance. Just like that, the agreement was gone. The trial kicked off on August 18, 2025, and wrapped in less than a week. Aurora and his team, 4 lawyers, 2 investigators, and paralegals, had spent months reviewing every piece of evidence step by step, searching for weaknesses in the prosecution's case. Once court began, those weaknesses became hard to ignore. Cornelius Smith's testimony started falling apart the moment cross-examination began. He claimed he was injured in his shoulder during the incident, but didn't seek medical attention for a full month. He also said the injury was close to his neck, yet there were no reports of complications or infection. That raised immediate red flags. Then there was the vehicle. The Mercedes recovered showed no signs of blood inside, even though he claimed there was heavy bleeding in the car. That detail didn't line up at all and became a major focus in court. Aurora pressed on that, questioning how such claims could exist without any physical evidence. Cornelius tried to explain it by saying the car had been cleaned, but that explanation didn't hold up under scrutiny. Evidence just doesn't disappear that easily, especially with modern forensic methods. The prosecution also presented phone records trying to link everyone involved, but Aurora challenged that too, pointing out how the data may have been misleading. Some call logs appeared to show conversations that actually went straight to voicemail. According to Aurora, there were even mix-ups involving nicknames and text messages where Govon was confused with someone else. But outside the courtroom, a completely different energy was building. Even before the verdict, people had already picked sides and stood on it. The trial was being live-streamed and heavily discussed across social media, with many young Dolph fans convinced Govon was guilty. No matter what the court decided, emotions were already running high before the jury even stepped away. On the final day, after closing arguments, the jury took only about 3 hours total to reach a decision. Around an hour the first night, then less than 2 hours the next morning. And just like that, a verdict was in. Govon walked out a free man. But being free in court doesn't always mean things feel settled outside. The reaction hit instantly, and it was intense. Key Glock, who shared a close bond with young Dolph and helped build Paper Route Empire from the ground up, clearly felt the weight of everything. His message online said it all. My city failed, but what's new? Long live Dolph. That wasn't just a reaction, it was years of frustration boiling over. For him, this wasn't only about one verdict, it was about everything leading up to it. Young Dolph had faced multiple dangerous situations before his passing, with reports claiming he had been targeted several times over the years. The tension with CMG had been building for a long time, and now the person accused of being behind the final incident was free. But Key Glock wasn't the only one speaking out. Kenny Money, another Paper Route affiliate, took things even further with strong accusations, calling Govon a federal informant and hinting that bigger moves were happening behind the scenes. Man, how you think they survive? How you think a federal survive? They live in the best life. They drive in Lambos. That kind of talk spread quickly, adding fuel to an already heated situation. At the same time, Paper Route Wu made statements that sounded like a clear warning, saying Govon should leave Memphis immediately and handle his situation before things got worse. The message was loud, and people were definitely listening. The streets were talking heavy, and none of it was in Govon's favor. Social media filled up fast with accusations, strong opinions, and people calling for their own version of justice. Even though he won in court, public opinion had already shifted the other way, and not everyone was ready to accept that outcome. Govon's legal victory didn't come cheap either. Aurora estimated that a case like this could cost anywhere from $800,000 to $1 million for a typical client. That's a massive number, especially for someone coming from Orange Mound. Aurora handled much of the case at a reduced cost, partly because of Govon's son and concerns about how the case was built. And that opens up a bigger conversation. A lot of people don't have access to that level of defense, raising serious questions about how many individuals might still be sitting behind bars simply because they couldn't afford to properly fight the system. Aurora even spoke on this, explaining that while many believe the justice system needs change because of what's happening in the streets, there's another side people don't always see, where situations can swing the complete opposite way. He pointed out that while nobody supports wrongdoing, the legal world can sometimes feel like a game of wins and losses, almost like sports, instead of focusing purely on what's fair. Now, with Govon back outside, the real pressure is just getting started. Freedom might look good on paper, but in reality, every move matters way more now. Eyes are watching, people are talking, and the tension hasn't cooled off at all. He's stepping back into a city that's still divided, where some see him as cleared, while others believe there's more to the story. That kind of spotlight carries a different level of weight, especially with emotions still running high. At the same time, law enforcement attention doesn't just disappear either. When a case reaches this level, every move, every connection, and every step can end up under a microscope. That adds another layer of pressure to an already intense situation. Oh, and then there's the industry side. The same music connections that once looked like opportunity now come with questions, distance, and uncertainty. People start moving differently when controversy is attached and loyalty gets tested fast. For Govon, this moment is about more than just staying free. It's about how he moves next. One wrong step, one bad decision, and everything could flip again just like that. Meanwhile, the city of Memphis is still feeling the impact of everything that happened. The loss, the trial, the reactions, it all left a mark that hasn't faded. People are still debating, still picking sides, and still trying to make sense of it all. Now, Govon is talking about leaving Memphis, but that move isn't as simple as it sounds. In his first interview after the trial, he made it clear that getting out of the city is a goal, just not something that can happen overnight. He even said, "Is it a goal of mine to move me and my kids from Memphis, Tennessee at some point? Of course it is, because I don't want to raise my kids here." That statement hit hard because it shows exactly where his mindset is right now. He explained that he doesn't want his kids growing up around the same struggles he faced and believes there are better environments out there. But making that kind of move takes money, planning, and stability, and right now that's a challenge. Even after winning his case, Govon reportedly used up most of his resources on legal fees. Now, at 45, he's basically starting from scratch, trying to rebuild his life while staying alert to everything happening around him. That's not an easy position to be in. At the same time, Key Glock continues carrying young Dolph's legacy forward through Paper Route Empire. But the loss and everything that followed hasn't faded. Seeing someone accused in the case walk free only added more weight to an already painful situation. That "My City Failed" post wasn't just about one decision. It reflected deeper frustration with how everything played out and how the system is viewed by many watching. The emotions behind it go far beyond this one moment. The bond between Key Glock and young Dolph was deeper than music. Dolph discovered Glock, guided him, and helped build Paper Route Empire with him at the center of it all. When Dolph passed, Glock didn't just lose a collaborator, he lost someone who played a major role in his life and career. And that kind of loss doesn't fade easily. Meanwhile, Paper Route Empire and its affiliates have made it clear online that Govon's legal win doesn't automatically mean acceptance everywhere else. The warnings, the tension, and all the conversation around the situation point to a reality where a courtroom outcome doesn't settle everything in the public eye. This case highlights why Memphis hip-hop continues to deal with so much conflict. When legal decisions don't line up with what people believe is right, and trust in the system starts breaking down, emotions can take over and situations can escalate fast. Govon may have avoided life behind bars, but now he's dealing with a completely different kind of pressure. Instead of a sentence inside a cell, it's like living under constant scrutiny, with public opinion and ongoing tension following him everywhere. The prosecution spent years building their case around phone records and testimony that the defense strongly challenged in court. They tried to present Govon as the one directing everything for a small payout, but the defense argued the situation was far less calculated than it was made to seem. At its core, this case became a clash between two completely different narratives. One side pushed the idea of a larger plan, while the other pointed toward a situation involving individuals making reckless decisions without fully thinking things through. When they panicked and left the vehicle tied to the incident right across from Govon's house, it showed just how unorganized and rushed everything really was. That detail alone had people questioning everything. But Key Glock and Paper Route see it from a completely different angle, and from their perspective, that reaction makes sense. Someone they believe was connected to their loss just walked free, and that's not something easy to accept, especially after everything they've already been through. The "My City Failed" message reflects how this verdict reopened wounds Memphis was still trying to heal from. It brought all those emotions back to the surface, and people started speaking out again with even more intensity. The federal investigation angle becomes a serious topic when you look at the bigger picture. If anyone were to act on threats being discussed, it could lead to major legal consequences, including conspiracy charges and other federal cases. That's not something to take lightly. Govon's acquittal shows how the legal system works, where someone is considered innocent until proven otherwise in court, but it also highlights a harsh reality. Being cleared legally doesn't always mean life goes back to normal. This is someone who has faced decades of legal trouble, survived dangerous situations, dealt with personal loss, and stood trial in one of Memphis's most talked about cases. He may have won in court, but now he's navigating a completely different kind of pressure that doesn't just disappear overnight. Hernandez Govon's story shows that when it comes to street politics, there's really no such thing as a clean win. You can beat the case, have strong lawyers, and even walk free, but that doesn't always mean the situation is truly over. For a 45-year-old man from Orange Mound who was trying to shift from street life into the music industry and build something better for his kids, this outcome still comes with heavy consequences. The goal was a new path, a better future, and a different environment for his family, but the reality around him hasn't fully changed. Memphis is still watching closely, and the reactions haven't slowed down. Key Glock's "My City Failed" message might not be the end of this story. It could be the start of a whole new chapter filled with tension, questions, and constant attention. And with everything going on, there's always the possibility of more investigations, more developments, and more unexpected turns ahead. If you made it this far, make sure you hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next in this